Welcome back to another episode of Living a Life of Success with your host, myself, Vanessa. This week we have a young man. He's vibrant. He's a mighty man of God, a missionary by profession, who is touching the four corners of the earth with his testimony and the word of God. Our special guest tonight has been through a lot of stuff. And even at his young age, you may be saying, what could have happened in his life to make it that great for the things that he's about to share with you. But as we know, we cannot predict what will happen to us and we cannot dictate how our path will take. But tonight, you're going to hear from the person himself who went through this, and he's going to share with you how the power of God took his life from a place of emptiness, a place of like darkness, being lost, to a place where now he's free to preach the word and to share his testimony all across the world without any fear, in total freedom. Welcome our guest, Mr. Kamau Nibbs.
Vibes. Thank you very
Nibbs.
much for that introduction. I feel really special with that introduction. It's always a pleasure talking to you, Vanessa. Miss you bad. Miss talking the dialect Antigua and
Mm.
so with you. But yeah, thank you for the opportunity today.
So, Nibbs, tell us a little about yourself so we can get to know who Nibbs is.
Okay. Yeah, so as you said, my name is Kamau Nibbs, and I'm 25 years old. I just turned 25 a couple of weeks ago. I thank God for that. But yeah, as you said, also, I'm a full-time missionary. I've been a missionary for going on to 8 years now. I started back in Antigua. I was doing local missions in Antigua for about 4 years, and I felt God calling me to the international mission field. That calling has been there even when I just became a Christian, but last year was when I felt like it was the time to really step out and start going to the international mission field. So yeah, as I say, I've been from Antigua and Barbuda. I love my home. I miss my 365 beaches. And life has been a journey, as you said. And it has been an amazing journey, honestly. Just going through it with God, just seeing life through His perspective as I grow in relationship with Him, and as I just grow in understanding who I am more and more as His son, and enjoying that journey of being His son, and just that kind of vibe. So I guess that's what I can say about me for now. If you want to know more, just ask questions. I love to answer questions.
Okay, so before, for many of you, you don't know how I met Nibbs. Now, this program is aimed at helping persons to share their testimony because you never know who your testimony might impact. You never know this little thing that you think is so insignificant, how it can impact somebody's life. And Nibbs and I met in our evangelism group called Soul Seekers. And it's amazing that he didn't know that his little journey with Jesus would prove to be a major breaking point in my story, right? And I would have shared my story with you, and I promised to share the deliverance aspect of it with you. But if Nibbs had never come to Christ, if Nibbs have never shared his story, then you wouldn't be seeing this person speaking to you today, right? And that's where we're trying to encourage young people, old people, whoever you are, to share your story. I think that's why the Bible says to testify, because you're not only releasing yourself of the guilt and the frustration, but you're also speaking into the life of someone who is at a place of hopelessness and letting them know that they are not alone. And I know the person speaking to me on the other end of this call wasn't always this confident, wasn't always this bold, wasn't always this outspoken and ready to share. So share with us what Nibbs was like before he met Christ, and what was that breaking point that led you to say, okay, I need to give Jesus a try. what led you to take that step? Because you became a Christian at a pretty young age when people would say, okay, I'm in my prime, I gotta get the girls, I gotta go to the club, I gotta, you have your bucket list to fulfill. But you decided to go to Jesus. That's not like the traditional route. So share
Mhm.
with us why you decided to make that step.
Nice. Thank you very much for the opportunity again. And as you said, I wasn't always this confident and like bold and eager to share with people because I became a Christian at the age of 15, like 15 years old thereabout. And before I became a Christian, and even like 2 years or so after becoming a Christian, I was still struggling with depression and low self-esteem and no confidence, right? I'm a very, Vanessa, and anybody that knows me, I'm a very energetic and love a lot of vibes and hype and all of that kind of stuff. And that's been my life since I knew myself, right? But when I'm in front of people with all this energy and so on, I'm a completely different person when I'm like home by myself and like when I'm not around people. I was very, as I said, very depressed, even suicidal. I tried to commit suicide 3 times actually between the ages of 14 to about 17. And yeah, for me at that time, life was just rough. It wasn't rough compared to a lot of people facing different struggles and so on out there. But for me, in my little world, life was just really rough, and not having confidence and boldness and so on in this world. This world can be very brutal to people that's in that place. And I used to play basketball. I used to love basketball. And being an athlete, if there's any athletes out there listening, when it comes to sports, skill and practicing and so on is one side of it, but having that confidence and that determination and so on is a completely different aspect. And I had the skill, I put in the work to practice and so on, but I didn't have the confidence. Well, so because of that lack of confidence, when I step out on the basketball court, I didn't produce as much as I wanted to. I wasn't like excelling in basketball like how I wanted to because there was no confidence. I didn't see myself as a good basketball player. Even though I was putting in the work, I didn't see myself as that. So because I was giving myself so much to basketball and I wasn't succeeding in it, it made me even more depressed. And at school, when you have no confidence and you have low self-esteem, you compare yourself to people a lot. I know some of you can probably resonate with that. As somebody that's in that state, you find that person comparing themselves to others a lot, and that was me. So along with my failure in basketball in school, I was always comparing myself to those students who did like the Jimmy Neutrons of my school at the time. I know the older generation will get that analogy. I can't believe I'm saying that. I feel like an old man now, but
They wonder like, who's Jimmy Neutron?
yeah, I feel like an old man now saying something like that. But I would always compare myself to the really intelligent students in the class, saying why I can't be like them, why I can't like get all A's or all high grades and so on like them. And when I did just average, I wasn't doing bad, but when I did just average, I would get really depressed again, really down. And I remember while I was in fifth form, I had a really, really bad depressed episode and even suicidal attempt right there in my high school. I had to do a project and I didn't do it well enough to my liking. And again, I was comparing myself to the students that are around me. And long story short, at that point, not doing good in basketball, failing this project, I was like, there's no meaning to life. I don't feel happy. I don't feel fulfilled. I just want to end my life. And I did try that in school at the time. And luckily I had friends and the teachers around me to help stop me and take me to counseling and stuff like that. But apart from the counseling, and let me just say real quick, at this time when I had this episode, I was already a Christian, you know. And I know, Vanessa, you want us to be real. And I just want to start with this real truth that even as a Christian, people think that is rainbows and unicorns after you give your life to Jesus. But that's when it gets even more difficult, because the enemy is trying to get you to go back on the best decision that you have made in your life, which is to give your life to Jesus. And that's what it was for me. You know, he was lying to me through this depression and this whole self-hate that I had. You know, the enemy was lying to me, telling me I'm not good enough, you know, trying to get me to like take out myself, because he couldn't take me out. You know, the
Mm.
God had a protection around me. He was trying to get me to take out myself, you know. And just after this depressed episode, I remember God himself speaking to me through people, through the word, as I read my word, and as I spend time one-on-one with him. You know, during this time, this dark time in my life, I was able to grow closer in relationship with God. And as I grew closer in intimacy and relationship with Jesus, I started to understand who he created me to be. You know, my true identity came out. And then little by little, I grew in confidence as I trusted God more, as I give myself to him more, because it's a process. You know, the Bible talk about anybody comes to Christ, they become a new creation. That new creation, it doesn't just happen when you say the sinner's prayer. It's a process. And God was taking me through that process at that time. And he still is taking me through a process. You know, and as I say, and as I grew closer to God and I got more passionate about Jesus, and he became the number one thing that I lived for, my confidence came, my self-esteem went up. You know, everything that I needed to function as an effective human being that's going to make and is making an impact in this world came as a result of me going deeper in relationship with Christ. You know, so long story short, I got linked up with Youth to the Mission. That's a missionary organization after God delivered me from depression and so on. I've never been depressed or suicidal since then. There's been even more issues in life. You know, that's much more difficult. I have to pay bills now. You know, soon for now, I got family and stuff for sort out. You know, so like life is even more stressful than when I was 15 to 17, right? But because I have a foundation in Jesus Christ, I can say I haven't been depressed for almost 10 years now. You know, 25, well, almost 8 years, whatever. You know, you do the math. I wasn't good in math, right? But yeah, and I just want to encourage you out there listening. That's the key. Whatever you're facing, it could be depression, it could be some addiction, you know, to porn or drugs or whatever that's destroying your life. Because depression and low self-esteem and my lack of confidence, it was destroying my life, you know. And until I came to that point where I realized, yo, I have to go after Jesus with everything, that's when I got the freedom. And I'm still walking in that freedom. And as I said, it's still a process, you know. And I thank you for the opportunity that I could share this with others, because as I travel the world and I go to different cultures, you know, I've been to Mexico, I've been all over the US, I'm in Kansas City, Missouri right now. You know, I've been to many Caribbean islands. As I experience different people, different cultures, one thing that remains the same: sin is sin. And the enemy, he doesn't have like new strategies and new plans for different cultures. It just looks different in different places, but he does the same thing. He come at us with the same stuff, you know. And as I meet people to that find freedom, is the same way they find freedom, only through Jesus Christ. You know, so wherever you're from, wherever you're listening from, whatever age you are, just know that whatever you're facing right now, and it might be coming up in your mind as you're listening to this video, know that the only answer to your freedom, the key to your freedom, is a deep personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And as I said earlier, the practical ways that I got deeper in my relationship with Jesus and got that freedom was through connecting with God one-on-one in my quiet times, prayer times, listening to people that had the best at heart for me, Christian people that were able to counsel me and give me the wisdom straight from God, you know, and going into my word and really understanding God's heart for me and his heart for the world and the nations through his word. You know, so that's my story. That's where I'm at. That's just one aspect of it. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. And as I said, it's still a process, and I'm enjoying the process. God gets more and more exciting every year that I've been a Christian, every year that I've been in missions. He just blows my mind more and more, and I'm just so excited for what's ahead. Yeah.
That's great. Now, you mentioned that you had to go through a period of deliverance to
Mm-hmm.
basically get over depression and some of the temptation that you were going through. Now, most young people, they know they have a problem. Everybody knows they have a problem, but we don't know where to go, who to turn to, and where to find help. How did you get connected with YWAM, and what was that experience like?
Okay, good question. So you spoke about the evangelism group that we were a part of in the beginning, and that's how I got connected to Y1. Because after I found Jesus, right? Because whenever I get excited about something, I want to tell everybody. So if I was to ever get into a relationship and get excited about that, the whole world will know. So you will know eventually. Vanessa, don't worry.
You
But
don't
yeah,
know.
whenever I get excited about anything, I love to just share it. And for me, when I came to Jesus, he was very, very exciting and still is very, very fulfilling. So I just had to share that with everybody, And then I got linked up with this evangelism group because of that passion to share Jesus. And then one day, while we are having one of the meetings for this evangelism group, this young lady, Kizia, shout out to Kizia, she listens to this. But Kizia, she came to this evangelism group and she shared about her experience with Youth to Mission, YWAM for short. She went to Youth to Mission Grenada. They have bases all over the world. And she went to Grenada for a 6-month program. And she said through this program, it opened doors and gave her opportunities to share Jesus in nations across the earth. And at that time when she came to the group, God was already breaking my heart for like people in different nations far away from Antigua and Barbuda. So when I saw this, I was like, yo, this is the perfect opportunity for me to get out there and continue sharing this excitement and this vibes and this passion that I have for Jesus. So that's how I got linked up with YWAM. So I went to Grenada a couple months after she came to that group that night, and I did my discipleship training school there in Grenada. And then long story short, I got linked up. So I'm actually here at Youth to the Mission, Kansas City, doing I'm a part of a team here called Team Extreme, where they use like athleticism and like feats of strength and different stuff and so on like that to preach the gospel. So that's what I'm doing right now. That's how I got linked up with Y1.
Awesome. And I just want to highlight a point because Kizia shared her testimony with you and you got
Mm-hmm.
your breakthrough. You
Yep.
shared your testimony with us and we got our breakthrough. So
Come
this
on,
is the
yo.
whole point of sharing a
Yeah.
testimony, because I'm sure at that time when she was sharing, she didn't think that it would have such a great impact. She was just testifying, right,
Yeah.
about her little life, and her
Yeah.
little life was able to bring so much impact, because I
Yeah.
too can relate to you when you talk about having low self-esteem, comparison, feeling inadequate, not having the boldness if God say to do this now, to just step out. But because of sharing a simple thing like a testimony, you're able to achieve this level of freedom, right? And the last thing we're gonna ask of you tonight, Nibbs, is to just explain to us. You're about 15, 16 at that time when the Lord is calling you into ministry, basically. How do you get over the struggle of, you have your family having expectations of you, but yes, so your heart is being pulled in another direction. And I find that's, I think for a lot of people, sometimes the Lord is working on their heart and they really want to give in, but then their family says, nope, you got to go to college. No,
Yeah.
they're pulling you in this way and God is pulling you in this way. How
Yeah.
did you make that choice? How did you muster up that courage to say, no, I'm going to do my DTS. No, I'm going to serve God. No, I'm going to go and be a missionary. You didn't even go to college. but you decided to go the path with God. You had no security because you know God don't tell you, I'm gonna give you $1 million if you come. You don't know what you're going to get. How did you make that decision? We weren't even an adult yet. Tell us about that experience.
That's a good question once again. ABS should hire you to do some interviews with people and so on. But yeah, just to answer that question, and this might sound weird, but my stubbornness helped me in that way, in that time. Because stubbornness is not a good thing a lot of times, but for me, because I knew for certain that this is what God was calling me to, nothing could have swayed my mind. It was times because, as you said, my mother was like, "How are you going to like support yourself in the future? You're working for no money because out here we have to do like humanitarian projects and so on. So it's not just like preaching the gospel, which we do a lot of that, but we do a lot of like physical work to help people and to show people God and stuff like that. And like she's seeing all my mother seeing all that, she's like, what craziness is that? You have to support yourself. You have
You're
to
going a little bit low, Nibbs.
Sorry, I'm saying like
Yeah.
after my mother like understood all of that, she's like coming at me saying I have to support myself, I have to like make a future and so on. And my father wasn't there to like help me out in financial ways or any ways like that. So she was worrying about like how am I really going to make it in life if I choose this path. And even some of my friends too, that had the best at heart for me, but they was just seeing things through their perspective. But as I said, I already knew for certain this is what God wanted me to do. I had a passion, I had a drive towards it, and nothing was going to change my mind. So I was determined at that point that I'm going to be a missionary. So I would say for me, my when I feel like God is saying something, it's like set for me and I pursue it. But for others who like sway, sometimes what you can do is one, get people in your corner that not just going to give you advice from their perspective, but people who are really going to go before God and ask God what they should advise you in, those people that you can trust in that way, that really have a relationship with God to help you make that decision if God is calling you to something like that. And I would say if it sounds crazy, it's most likely God asking you to do it.
Yeah.
So that's sometimes why people back up, because they're like, yo, this thing sounds really crazy. And then you get other people around you that agree with you, like, yes, this thing sounds really crazy. Maybe it's not God. But from my little experience, from my little 7, almost 8 years of being in missions, the more crazy it is, the more God it is.
Yep.
So that's so because and why as I'm going through that process and seeing that with God, I realized that God wants it to be crazy because he wants to show you that he is more than able to do it. He's more
Yeah.
than, there's something in the word that says he takes the foolishness of and
To
confound
confound the word.
like that. And even right now, I'm living in the US, just giving a testimony of how God has been faithful. I'm living in the US, where all my support is in EC dollars, and EC dollars is like 3 times less, almost 3 times less the US dollar. So something simple that would just cost $1 back home, it cost me $3 here. So that's like easy money that I'm converting into US, and it's like 3 times less than I have. But then every single month I'm able to pay my rent. I'm full. If you know me before, Vanessa, I mean, look, I'm more skinny than what I'm gonna be right now.
Yes. Well, bulk up. So face fat.
Because
Life
God
good.
God's been good, like I have money to buy McDonald's. Well, I don't eat McDonald's. Let me stay away from that. But you get what me trying to
You're
say.
better.
God has
Yeah, yeah,
been
yeah. Everything
very,
starts
very
out.
faithful for 7 years without fail. Without fail.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And this last thing, to stay here and continue serving the nations out of this base, I have to get a religious visa. And the religious visa, just the process alone, costs $1,500 US. That's
Wow.
4,000 EC dollars. And let me tell you something. God already provided. I have it. Just yesterday, somebody blessed me with the last bit of the money that I needed to get the 1,500 US dollars that I need. And I can go on and on with stories on top of stories. But at that time, when God was asking me to make the step, I didn't see all of this. And He doesn't show us all of this because He wants us to trust Him, and He wants to deepen our relationship with Him through that process. Because as you step out in faith, you go deeper in relationship with Him. So to answer your question, God, it's tough, but God is always faithful. And I'm just repeating it so it can stick. The more crazy it is the most likely that's God speaking. And once God speaks to you, be determined to obey Him no matter the cost, and get the right people in your corner to advise you. So those are the things I would say to answer your question.
So if someone watching this would like to support Nibbs so he can continue sharing his story, how do they get in contact with you? Because this is going to go all over the world. So we need to know, how do we help Nibbs to accomplish the work that God has placed on his life? How do they reach out to you? Do you have the Cash App thing? Do you have
I have a
email?
I have a PayPal, but what you can do, you can connect with me through Facebook. Just go type in Kamau Nibbs, KAMAUNIBBS. So that's KAMAUNIBBS. And just, you send me a friend request, send a message with the friend request, because, all kind of weird people are always trying to add you on Facebook, spam and so on. So just send me a message saying, hey, I heard your stuff on YouTube. I just wanted to connect with you, and I would love to just accept and connect with you too. And that's the way you can support. And then as you connect with me on Facebook, we can take it from there and go to the next step. Or if that doesn't work for you, you can connect with Vanessa. Some of you might know Vanessa. Connect with Vanessa. Your information is probably on your YouTube channel. Connect with her, and then she can make the connections from there. So I think those two methods can work.
Okay, great. So we know that you're a very busy man, always have things to do. So we want to thank you one more time for coming and sharing your testimony with us. We know it has been a blessing to everybody that's watching. We got more than a handful of encouragement, and we just want to bless you with everything that God has in store for you. We just want to pray that you continue to be granted wisdom and courage to take on the task. It's not an easy task, and that everywhere that your foot goes, as the Lord says, that you'll continue to be blessed, knowing that you have security, that no matter what obstacles come in your way, that God will always stand by you. He stand by you for 8 years, and He continues to stand by you. And your testimony is important. Your testimony is important. Look what you and Kizia did. Right? So we just thank you,
God be the glory,
for sharing with us tonight, because I know a lot of persons are being blessed right now. And we just thank God that we can use our little life that we thought was insignificant to be a blessing to people. So we look forward to hearing great things about you, Nibbs, great movements in the future, and just enjoy the rest of your evening.
Hey, thank you again for the opportunity. Miss you bad, but just cool. See you later.
Bye.
Mm-hmm.